Welcome to episode 191 of the Forestallover podcast. No, your eyes are not deceiving you. Adam Wiklo has joined us for the first time here. I've tried to get him on with Matt. Adam Wiklo from Red Side of the Trent. We have Statsman Will as well. Matt is useless and he's not here. But today we're going to do a Man City preview, talk a little bit about the FA Cup, talk about expectations, the back end of the season, do a red hot take and some score predictions, and just in general have some fun. But without further ado, I think we'll do a Forest all over the world. Hit the music. We've got a Paraguayan tricky tree. He's 28 years old. He's a Forest cake. He's an absolute legend. Look him up on X or Twitter, whatever you call it. A Paraguayan tricky tree. Absolute legend. We've got Dubai Trickies. They're doing a Forest City brunch this Saturday. The location is McCaff's Al Furan, I believe. So shout out to Dubai Trickies and Chris Walsh, legend. And finally, we've got Michael McGee, who's gone over to New Orleans. He was looking for someone to watch the game with. If anyone's out in New Orleans, let us know. We reached out to the Nottingham Forest North America group, and Finn McCool's Irish Pub seemed to be the spot where they watch the games. So, without further ado, we'll start with Adam. Adam, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, Chris. Thanks for having me on. Where's Matthew? That's who I want.
No. Listen,
I want his head on a spike.
Matthew is not here because this is the norm, right? I've tried to organize this to have Adam on for a long time with myself and Matt, and it never worked out. And I blame him because he's just chaotic. But you're here now, and that's good. And Statsman Will, you're here as well. Will, how are you doing?
Yeah, good. A little bit hungover from last night because I can't handle more than 3.5 pints these days without feeling a bit rough. So, yeah, all right, not too bad. I'll soldier through.
Legend, you're still celebrating the FA Cup 5th round win there on Monday. That was good, wasn't it? Like, we're through to the quarterfinals.
Yeah, I mean the pints weren't about the win, but yeah, I'm still pleased that we've won. I still look back at it as a good penalty shootout showing. Yeah, it was a bit of a crazy game to be honest, but the important thing is not really about the performance in like the early stages of the cup. It's about just getting through in it, and that's what we did. So happy with that.
Delighted. And it's funny, Matt on the last episode said he wanted it to go to a penalty shootout. It did go to a penalty shootout and we won. He was at the game. He was actually driving back in the car, and I rang him at like 12 a.m, 1 a.m. on the way back down to London because he was staying in London this week, working there. And he said he was listening to Forest Focus. The first thing he said to me was he was listening to Forest Focus. I was on the post-match, and he said he complained about one of the things that I said, and just the whole way down, he was like, "Why are you saying this?" I'm like, you should just be grateful that we've just won a penalty shootout. I've managed to somehow find you a ticket. You should just be happy. And he was like, "Oh no, I am," but he was just complaining about me. So at least you're in better form than Matt about it. Adam, how are you feeling about Monday's game, quarterfinals? You must be happy.
Yeah, happy in the end, but it was painful to watch, wasn't it? Because like Ipswich made so many changes, and we kind of kept a semi-strong side out, and still struggled to kind of put them to the sword. And Ipswich made it difficult. Don't get me wrong, but we also made it difficult ourselves, which is the true Forest fashion way, isn't it? Like, it's the easy way, the hard way, and the Forest way. And to get through a penalty shootout for the second round in a row is a bit concerning, but we don't make easy games easy because that's just how we are. Like no one knows. We'll go into the Man City game. We've played 120 minutes and we'll cruise to victory somehow, because that's just us in a nutshell, isn't it? Like, we're so chalk and cheese. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's mad. The Exeter game was the one where I was kind of like, what are we doing here? Like, just conceding at the start of the game, conceding at the start of the second half, and then like bringing on our best players and them getting a player sent off and it getting dragged into extra time penalty. I was just like, this is, and of course against Ipswich made like 8 or 9 changes. Like, they're not really prioritizing the cup. Now, they're no slouches. Some of their players are decent players, but like, they looked like they held their own throughout that game. I felt like we were in control most of the game, to be honest. Like, I do think we were in control. I wasn't massively worried until they scored. And then I was like, oh gosh, are we going to lose this game? Like that they don't even really want to go through to the next round, Ipswich. Like, are we going to lose this? But yeah, no, I think it was, look, overall it was positive. And the good thing is the reaction of Nuno and some of the changes he made and some of the strong players coming on like Gibbs White and Anderson completely changed the game. It shows that we have that in us to do that and go on. And we probably should have won the game before extra time. I think we had a few big chances, hit the bar, disallowed goal, etc. So look, I'm just delighted we're in the quarterfinals. It's a massive thing. We'll be talking more about expectations and stuff at the end of the season, but I'm delighted for it. Coming into Man City, Will, what are your expectations for this game? I mean, it's City are in really poor form. They're not in poor form, but they've been in poor form this season for their standards. They're still in fourth. They overtake us if they beat us. We go 4 points clear if we beat them. What are you thinking?
Well, I mean, the expectation is that Man City will beat us. That is the expectation based on, how good a team Man City is. We're catching them at not a great moment, but not as weirdly like when we played them at their place. They were in probably their worst point of the season, and we still capitulated 3-0 against them. It was 3-0, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So I don't know what to think about today, to be honest, about this fixture, to be honest. It could go literally anyway. I think they're defensively missing a lot of players. You've got Stones, Ake, Akanji all out. So they'll probably be playing like a makeshift centre-back, maybe Kusanov or, I don't know, and then is Rico Lewis or Nunez going to play in the right-back role? I don't know. Gavardio will probably play in that weird sort of centre forward role he essentially plays, and then comes back into centre left or left back. I don't really know what they're going to do, but I know that we're going to have obviously a lot less of the ball, which kind of suits us anyway. I think we need to. I think in the past, not against Arsenal, but maybe against some of the teams, we've been a bit guilty of trying to say, right, we're a big team now. We can go and impose our game on some people, but that's not how we play our best football. Our best football is when we sit in counter. So I think in a way it's probably good that we're playing such a good opposition because we won't get caught out. We'll try and be solid at the back and try and hit them on the counter, and that's the plan. Even though we are at home, that would be the plan. I think it's a good matchup for us. It was last time that they struggled off counter-attacking, and we're obviously very good at it. It's just whether we can, hold our own at the back and not concede any cheap goals, and particularly set pieces at the moment seems to have been a bit of an issue that's raised its ugly head again. So, yeah, hopefully Milenkovic's back helps that. But yeah, I think it's going to be challenging, but I think we're good to get something out of this game.
Yeah, and I think I think you allude to there us sitting in. That doesn't necessarily mean playing a back five either, does it? Like we can sit in and we can do what we did against Arsenal, where we played our formation, but we just kept our shape and kept them out. And their main goal threat was from corners, or when Calafiori turned Dominguez and had a chance. He should have probably scored. He probably should have put that away. But other than that, like their main threat was from corners. And I think if we can sit in our shape, still play a back four, we can hit them properly on the counter and stuff. Adam, go ahead, Will. Go on.
I was just going to say, I think we should play a back four. I mean, I guess we played back four at 5 against Brighton, I think, and that was obviously brilliant. But in general, our early form was predicated under a back four. And then bringing Morato on later to quieten down the game. I don't know why we sort of moved away from that tactic slightly. I think we need to sort of try and get back to that as the format, as the blueprint, if you will.
Yeah, it's a weird one. Adam, I think that for me the thing that I've struggled with is like we'll play back five in some games and it just won't work at all, like against Fulham. Then we'll play it against Brighton. We'll hammer them 7-0. They've gone on a run since that game, so they're not a bad team. And then against Arsenal, City, Liverpool, those kind of teams, it's kind of we've played a back four and had success against Liverpool and recent success against Arsenal, but when we went away to them, we didn't. I don't really know what to do here. I think we should play a back four, and I do think we should sit in and counter. But like, do you have any other thoughts on changing anything, or is the only real question who's going to play in that midfield role alongside Anderson and Gibbs White?
There's several things to consider. It's obviously what Man City are doing. Does Koeman play at right back? Does Rico Lewis play there so Gvardiol can play left back, and Koeman can play centre half? Do they play Nico O'Reilly at left back, who scored 2 goals in the FA Cup at the weekend as well, and is more of a central midfielder for them actually rather than a full back? But you know what Guardiola is like; he can tinker and play people as hybrids. I think with Nuno, it could last season come into it where we actually gave City probably our best game against them, arguably. I know we lost 2-0 and we've drawn 1-1 before with them under Cooper, but I don't think we played amazing in that game, particularly in terms of an attacking sense of form. But last season, where Wood seemed to have lost his scoring boots by that point, should have probably scored 2 or 3 times. We played a 5 at the back, didn't we? We played, I think, Niakate, Bolly and Murillo, and you've got 2 better centre halves now next to Murillo and Milenkovic and Morata. So that's a quandary for Nuno to have. Central midfield is like you say, Chris, is the most difficult thing. It's last season it was who partners Murillo. That problem solved. It's now who partners Elliot Anderson, and we've really struggled to find that answer sometimes. Sometimes we think we found it with Nico Dominguez. Sometimes we thought we found it with Ryan Yates playing there with Nico Dominguez and Elliot Anderson playing just in front with no Morgan Gibbs White. It's such a tough one, but it's a nice conversation to have in a sense. But I think I lean more towards playing the 3 at the back because of last season, and you play Elliot Anderson and Morgan Gibbs White there, and then you have the 3 up top of Callum Hudson-Odoi, Elanga and Wood up there, and your support from your wing backs as well. And we have to be aggressive in the press and try and limit space for Erling Haaland to run in behind, really, because I think you take that power away from him and we have better success. But then it's them runners like of Marmoush, Savinho and Docker, isn't it? And the likes of them guys. They've got threat from everywhere, haven't they, City, which is unfortunate. But on the break, they've been really struggling this season.
Yeah, they're a really annoying team because like when we played them, they were going through that run of like really like they were going through a really bad run of form, and then they beat us, and then they went back to pretty bad form just pre-Christmas. I think
we just gave them far too much respect.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like you can give a level of respect like we did to Arsenal, even though Arsenal were blunted by missing forwards, we still gave them a level of respect when we played against them because we knew that midfield runners like Odegaard could break through and unlock the door, or Rice can shoot from distance. We knew that, so we gave them a level of respect, and we knew Trossard was still a good player. Like, and Ranieri looks good too, but we just don't. When we're playing City, we don't need to give them so much respect that we just drop completely off them, and then they just keep chipping balls in and eventually find a way through with De Bruyne or Haaland or some of their world-class players that they have. I don't know. They're an annoying team that we've yet to beat and unlock, even though they're like the last few seasons they've been in a different stratosphere. They're not this season. And I just really want to get hold of them. I want to get something from this game this weekend. Do you know what I mean? It's really bugging me. But I think, go ahead. Yeah, go on.
Did you ever think, though, 11 games from the end of the season, if you said, Forest will be above Man City in the league, you'd think we'd be top of the league, wouldn't you? Sort of thing. It's absolutely balmy. So it's a great, like, game to be a part of, really, isn't it? It's going to be amazing on Saturday. I think crowd will be well up for it. I think we just got to get stuck into it. I think this is, I know I said about Anderson and Gibbs White playing alongside each other, but I also think this is also a game for Ryan Yates to potentially come back in for it. I thought he was actually half decent against Ipswich. I don't think he was amazing, but I thought he was good enough. And I thought he got amongst Ipswich, especially after he scored his goal. It gave him a lot of confidence, I thought. So it could be a game for him to play in, but it's a tricky one. I'm glad I'm not Nuno, to be honest.
Yeah, well, that midfield. So two things that you to allude to there. The first thing is I'll answer your second part. The part of that, well, it wasn't a question, but I'll speak on it. The midfield stuff. I actually think it's just a case of this number 6 situation with Sangare coming back and Yates playing well recently, and Dominguez still being sort of available, even though he's not a 6, but he plays alongside Anderson and Gibbs White at times. It's just going to be a case of who's on form and who takes the jersey. Like, loads of times through this season, we've had moments where Yates has done it. Loads of times this season, there's been a few times where Dominguez has done it and played really well in that position. And it's just going to be, and if Sangare comes back and does well for 60 minutes, it might be him for 60 minutes. He had a good first half. He might have been poor. I mean, the whole midfield was poor from sort of 45 minutes to 60 minutes against Ipswich. But I think Sangare had a reasonably good first half. So it's just going to be a case of who's in form right now. Yates seems to be in form, so I'd probably play him. And then to touch on something else you said there, Adam, like, you're right. Like, we're above Man City. There's 11 games to go. We play Man City on Saturday. Maybe we can have that kind of same mentality that we had when we were 6 points behind Liverpool in January, and we would have closed the gap to 3 points, and we played them at the City Ground. And I thought to myself, just whatever you do, Forest, just show up and play the best you can play. And if Liverpool beat us, because they've been amazing this season, that's fine. We've already beat them in Anfield. And you know what? We showed up. We were brilliant. The crowd was amazing. We got the first goal. We put them on the ropes for the first half. And then they got a header second half, and we ended up drawing the game. And that was probably my favourite moment of the season so far, because Forest stepped up to the plate, to the title contenders plate at that point in the season. And I hope we can step up to the top 4 contenders plate now this weekend. Will, would you go back 4, and would you put Yates in midfield?
So I would go back 4, just because I think if you're going back 5, you are sort of ceding that midfield to Man City already, and you invite a lot more pressure on. I think the back 4 offers a bit more of an outlet when we need to get it forward. Whereas you've probably just got, with the back 5, it ends up being just Wood up top on his own, and then just the long balls that we've seen before, just struggling. So I prefer a back 4, like we played against Liverpool. I think we can go man to man with them crazily. I think that we are good enough to do that. Defensively, we've been sound this season generally. So I think you've got to like, I don't know, you got to have like faith in the defense to be able to shut it out. I mean, they shut out Arsenal, so I don't know why they wouldn't be able to shut out City. But yeah, I mean, going back to the midfield quandary, if you could put like Dominguez's legs on like Yates's frame, you'd have like the perfect midfielder, wouldn't you? But at the moment, I think it is Yates who is in the most form out of all of them. I think, Dinilo's fallen off a little bit. Dominguez is positionally not great. He gets caught out a lot. But he has got a lot of running in him. So it's whether you sacrifice your sort of positional play for you more sort of, for more legs in the midfield. And I think against Man City, I'd rather have people keeping it tight and being in the right place, because they will expose you as soon as you step out of position. So I'd pick Yates or Sangare, but probably Yates based on form. And obviously it's at home. I think you get an extra 10% out of Yates as well. So yeah, it's a tricky one, that midfield issue at the moment. But it's good that that's our only problem, and the other 10 pick themselves.
Yeah, and basically what you're saying is you do a 4-2-3-1. You'd have Yates and Anderson, and then you'd have Gibbs White kind of in the 10. And go ahead, Adam.
I think just to like add to what Will said about 1v1 defending almost, or go man for man, I think to play 4-2-3-1 and still be effective on the counter is you've got to then trust Nico Williams and Olaina against Doku and Savino, because against Arsenal we was almost playing a back 6, and every time we got the ball we ended up just giving it back to them because we were so pinned back. You kind of got to trust them 2 fullbacks to do their job, and then leave your wingers slightly higher so you have got that out ball. Otherwise, playing 4-2-3-1 almost becomes, you may as well have played the back 5, because you're getting pinned and sacrificing midfielders such. So I get what Will's trying to say. So it's about bravery, isn't it, really?
That's it. And I suppose mentally this kind of game, Adam, is like, what are City playing for here? They're playing for top 4. They're athletes. They've been doing this for the last 2 years, just run and gun. The sweet science of Pep Guardiola, but they're out of every cup competition except the FA Cup. They're out of the league. They're not going to win the league. They could finish 3rd, possibly 2nd if Arsenal fall off a cliff. But like, I think if we can just drag them into a dogfight, make them really not want to be there, ruffle their feathers a bit, that would be sort of mentally how we kind of take them on. You know what I mean? And I I'm just sick of Man City now. I'm sick of seeing them the last 6 or 7 years. I know a lot of Forest fans wouldn't have wanted Liverpool to win the league or whatever, and a lot of people don't want Arsenal to win because their fans are mad. My brother's an Arsenal fan, but I'm just sick of the sight of them, and I just want to knock them down a peg or two. And I'd really love to beat them. It would take us 4 points clear of them this weekend, and I wonder what sort of mentality we can bring into the game. Can we get physical in and amongst them? Can we be clever? Can Yates win the fouls? Can we get them on early yellow cards? And I don't know, because they have so many class players, but they are susceptible at the back, Adam. They are. And Hudson-Odoi, Elanga, Wood and Gibbs-White are all in really good form, and there's no reason why we can't score 1 or 2 goals on Saturday, is there?
No, I agree with you. Like, I think Nico Gonzalez has not been in the Premier League and in City's team for very long, but he's not going to have come up against the number 10 like Gibbs White at all in his career. I mean, for what Morgan doesn't give you, what he does give you is unbelievable work rate, and he loves a tackle. He don't just like it, he loves it. He will try and ruffle Gonzalez. When he's had against Rodri will kick him back. Will Gonzalez kick him back? I don't know. I don't really know much about him other than he's been at Porto, he was at Barcelona, so he's going to be technically really good. So Gibbs White's has to stop him from playing first of all. And then I think we just have to be as aggressive as we can, be direct, be aggressive. I think try and get Elanga and Callum against their fullbacks 1v1 and try and beat them. I mean, if this young lad plays left back and he has to go 1v1 against Elanga or Callum, try and take him on straight away. First thought is get by him. If you put across him. If Wood's not there, that you have a go at, they have a go at Wood for not getting in the box. You know what I mean? But I'd rather us try and hurt Man City in that sense by putting a lot of balls in the box, giving them lots of food for thought. I hate when our wingers take on a fullback and then don't put the cross in because no one's there. You see so many times, if you look at Villa in the week, Morgan Rogers puts the ball in early and Club Brugge score an own goal. Why can't that happen with us? Like, we've got to be brave. We've got to take chances, and I think any opportunity to get the ball in the box, I think, is a recipe for success in this one, because we've seen Chris Wood score goals from every single sort of opportunity he's got, every different scenario. I mean, he's not scored. Everyone calls him a tapping merchant. I don't think he's scored that many tap-ins this season, maybe 3 or 4 at most. If your striker's not there to score tap-ins, then he's not doing a very good job, is he, either? Because it's like 4, 5, 6 easy goals a season for him. And yeah, I just think, why not? Why not have a go? And why couldn't we score 2? Why couldn't we score 3, Chris? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, that's a class point you make about the wingers putting the balls in, just get them in the box, because, defenders might eat that up all day. I saw West Ham do it against Arsenal when they beat them 1-0 a couple of weeks ago. But if you keep doing it, if you keep persisting with crosses, and you have players like Chris Wood and you've other late players arriving in the box like a Ryan Yates who's an aerial threat, if you keep doing it, eventually something's going to land. Something's going to bounce your way. You'll get a half chance. So yeah, you're right. Like, there's no need to always go back and recycle and try and protect the ball in a high position and worry about a counter. Just, get balls in there. Obviously, if there's no one in the box, it's a waste of time. But I like you said with Morgan Rogers there for Villa, like Villa have just got Rashford, Asensio come in, that Garcia lad down the wing back. Like, they've signed a few players, Malin, and all they're doing constantly is just attack, and it seems to be working. They're getting balls in, and it's working for them. I know that their league position has slipped since then, but they've had some tough games. But Villa look really, really threatening, and you're right. I think just get the balls in the box and just go for it. Speaking of wingers, and I'll trust you again, Adam. One of the things I've noticed in the last sort of like through the course of the season is, prior to Christmas, we were really happy with Sosa and Jota Silva as backups. We didn't think that they were necessarily on the level of Callum Hudson-Odoi or Anthony Elanga, but we certainly thought that they were sort of able secondary players to come in for those players. And obviously, since we've had this little bit of a slump, and I think Jota Silva's had a couple of bad games, a lot of people, and I've actually heard in your podcast, a lot of people have been having a go at sort of the wingers and saying, like, they're not good enough. And not that they're not good enough, but they've been saying that basically they're not to the level of Hudson-Odoi and Elanga, and the drop-off is massive. And the drop-off is big. But we're going to need them the back end of the season, aren't we, Adam? Like, we're going to need, like, I know Sosa didn't even get on the pitch there on Monday, which I was a little surprised by. Jota Silva, I know he was there to do the dogged work and he came on, but we're going to need those players in those big moments. We're going to need them to come on and rotate. And, yeah, I don't know. I just wonder, is this is the last 11 games of the season. It's going to get bunched up after the international break. We're in an FA Cup quarterfinal. Like, I still think Sousa is technically gifted and can do a decent job. I still think Jota Silva has that in him, like he did at Man United at Old Trafford before Christmas. He was brilliant in that game. What do you think?
I feel sorry for Sosa this season. I don't know if you guys agree. I actually think he's more like Hudson-Odoi out of the two starters, because he's got that intelligence to turn back round and keep the ball going, and he's got that directness to also go at defenders and cut in. And we've seen him have a few attempts from outside the box and be a little bit unlucky. And he scored goals, and scored a couple in the FA Cup, and he scored against Brighton in the away game where they actually both linked up. I think Jota's problem is his attitude and his erraticness. When you need someone to come on and be a bit of a cool, calm, collective head, he tends to want to get involved with stuff that he doesn't really need to, giving away cheap free kicks in and around dangerous areas, and kind of being a little bit of a worry in that sense, and too hot-headed. And it's good to have someone like that when the game's kind of poised or whatever, or you've got kind of a balance there. But when you're playing in teams like Arsenal and City, you need someone to be, I don't know, a little bit more calmer than he is, because you can't afford to give teams of that quality the chance to put the ball in your box. So yeah, I feel sorry more for Sosa, and I think what's happened is, and I don't know if you guys will agree, but we've just jumped too high of a level too quickly. Like, if it was mid-table, it'd be fine. And I think they're just getting the scrutiny because we're battling out for Europe now, and I think they're finding it tough. I don't know if like Sosa's not getting played as much, maybe because of the language sort of thing, whereas Jota's got that English still. He can speak quite decent English to say he's not been in the country for very long. So I'm not sure if that's got something to do with it or what, but Nuno doesn't fancy either of them at the moment, does he? Like, Jota came on 5 minutes before extra time finished. And they didn't even take a penalty. I don't even remember him touching the ball. I think he ended up going on the floor once at least.
Yeah, I think he's just sticking to his team now, Nuno, and he knows his players. And I remember before Christmas, sorry, just after I was at the away Chelsea game, I remember people were actually talking about, at the time, we're talking about Jota Silva to start, or to get a chance to start, because we were just starting the season. We didn't know what our expectations were, and Jota Silva had been really, really good coming off the bench. And some people were saying, no, just keep him on the bench. He's good at coming off the bench. And others were like, well, give him his start, give him his chance. And now Nuno's like, listen, we're in the business end. I know Hudson-Odoi and Elanga are by far the best wingers. They know their jobs. And Jota Silva is a sub that can come off the bench and do a job, but he can't do what they do. And Sosa's technically, like you said, more gifted. He's probably more like the Hudson-Odoi in terms of technique, and he has a higher ceiling. But yeah, I just worry, because I look at our bench, and I've looked at our bench all season. I've gone, gosh, we've actually got like reasonable, passionate, decent, dynamic of players coming off the bench. Taiwo is a good striker. I don't care what anyone says. He is a good striker. He's done us well. He's just had some big injuries. Jota Silva has the passion. Sosa has technical ability. We've seen it in spurts, like you said. I thought he played very well against Everton when he started, because Hudson-Odoi didn't play that game. Murillo was out early, and we were up against it. And I felt like Sosa had put in a really good shift and had a couple of good moments. He missed one semi-big chance in the first half, but I think he had a really good game. So I just think we're going to need those players back in the season. We still have been fairly, touch wood, lucky with injuries, and we just don't know what's going to happen. And I think rotation and stuff's going to come into play, especially with the FA Cup, as I said. But yeah, Will, what are your thoughts on the bench and the wingers?
Yeah, I have to agree with Adam on this point that we've just kind of, our expectations have shifted so much from the start of the season when they first came into to where we are now, and that's essentially pretty much a whole league of difference in quality that we're expecting of these players, who would be brilliant signings if you're battling out for relegation, but if you're battling out for Champions League, they might be slightly off it compared to our first team. It's not to say they're like bad players or anything, but there is a drop off there, and you've got someone like Sosa, who I'm not sure why he's not playing more. I think it might be a physicality thing. Maybe he just needs to reach that level, because I don't know if I'm being swayed by the fact that he looks like he's about 14. But like physically, I think he needs to like strengthen up a little bit. Jota, as Adam said, I agree with. He's He's the perfect player to come on when you're chasing a game. He's sort of effervescent, and he'll get people up for it. He'll get the crowd going. But when you're defending, he'll rat about a bit, but he's naive defensively, I would say. So it's tricky. I think they both will have a part to play before the end of the season, and they can both chip in. It was it against Brighton? They both came on and combined for that goal to equalise. So I think they're definitely going to have to play a crucial role, but it will be off the bench.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're going to start at all. I just want to remember that, like, we've players playing 120 minutes. I think Elanga and Hudson-Odoi both played 120 minutes on Monday, did they? Yeah. I mean, we've players playing 120 minutes.
They did come off eventually.
Who did?
Elanga came off eventually, didn't he? For Jota.
Right. Okay.
I mean,
sorry.
This is not necessarily my red hot take, Chris, or anything, but I think they like we've already reiterated, they are going to have to come in and start at some point as well, because you look at when Elanga was having a bit of a patchy form and we was gunning for Jota to start. He started against Villa and then came on and made it as an impact sub, didn't he? Elanga, he came on and got the winner, and also set up a goal that should not have been disallowed. Do you know what I mean? So, and it kickstarted Elanga's kind of season into gear, didn't it? So they're going to be needed. It's just how you utilize them and what games, especially. But we've got good games at home to potentially start them and then bring on the likes of Hudson-Odoi or Elanga. Like when you play not to be detrimental to the likes of like Brentford, Everton, or Leicester at home, or even Man United, but you could essentially start them for 55, 60 minutes. Hopefully the game's still in balance or we're winning. You bring on one of them guys to see it out.
It's tricky, isn't it, though? Because you've got if you do that and you don't win, then Nuno's going to have a lot to answer for.
Of course he is. Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah, so it's his choice to make. It's going to be his choice, but he's going to be judged on that choice. I agree that they'll need to play. It's going to be harsh because as fans, if you see Callum Hudson-Odoi on the bench, and we've lost the game, you'd be fuming. But
yeah, look, I'm not. I think if Elanga and Hudson-Odoi are fit for the rest of the season, I think that they play every single game for the rest of the season. And I include the quarterfinals in that. I include the semi-finals if we make it, etc., etc. I think they play every. It's just more like that 20-25 minute spell when you can bring someone on to change the game, or more that like last 15 minutes when you're like, right, let's bring Elanga off. Can Jota Silva do a job? Let's bring Hudson-Odoi off, because I don't know that those players can play full 90 minutes every game for the rest of the season, but they definitely start every game for me. Elanga and Hudson-Odoi for sure. Like
just on that with Silva, I do think, and this is again going back to that sort of bringing him on when you're chasing a game, but equally when we're trying to defend a game, you don't want him on. You'll be bringing I don't know, one of the wingers off and bringing on a Sangare or a Yates, or a Morato to secure it up. So that's why it gives us a bit more flexibility, I think. If we started at 4, I'm not banging the door for 4 too much. I don't mind if it's a 5, but I'm just saying that it gives you the option to go back to a 5 and defend, or you can replace wingers with fresh wingers like for like, and it's that's how to utilize, I think, Jota in the best way, and maybe Sousa as well, to be fair.
Yeah, I think it's just. I just wanted to have a conversation about the subs thing, because you look at Newcastle. Obviously, they're struggling now. Gordon is not playing their cup final, but Barnes is going to come in. But I see a lot of the Newcastle fans, they were complaining about the drop off to their squad, the rest of their squad. But like, I think considering we are overperforming this season, like the drop off is big, but it's not massive in certain areas. Like Morato is nowhere near the player sort of Murillo or Milenkovic is, but he's a good, able defender. He came in against Everton in that back 4, and then Taiwo for Wood is a good, able second player to come in. Wood's on the form of his life, has been for sort of 18 months or whatever. But Taiwo, we know, we trust that if he gets that moment, he can bundle it in. It's just the wingers is the thing that people are talking about in terms of the drop off. And we did see sparks from those 2 players. Yeah,
I think the wingers are there is a bit of a drop off there, but I think the biggest drop off is, say, someone like Morgan Gibbs-White, who's pretty much irreplaceable in our team. I mean, I know you can play Anderson up there a bit, but no one can do what Morgan Gibbs-White does for our team. If he gets injured, we are in massive trouble. I'd also argue that if one of the fullbacks got injured as well, that's going to be very difficult for us as well. I think they're the two areas where the drop off is the highest.
Yeah, I know it is, and I suppose the big answer to the equation is if
maybe Hennessy in goal as well.
Yeah, but if there is any injuries, these players just have to step up. We've seen Moreno pocket Salah at Anfield, but since then he's had a bit of a drop off when he's come in, but he's been in and out of the team because Williams has won his place, and we have seen Anderson play the 10. Gibbs White was injured for a stretch and suspended at the same time. There was a few games in a row where Anderson played the 10, and we won those games. I think it was Leicester and West Ham or something. Some of those games Gibbs White didn't play in, and like obviously I think he's in my opinion, he's one of our most important players. And if he gets injured, we're in trouble. Touch wood again. But I'm just saying that like it's just a case of that's management. You deal with those things throughout the season. Lots of teams get them, and I just wonder, can our bench just step up again, like when they have in moments of the season? Wiklo, you mentioned it's crazy to think where we are, and every single week on this podcast I always seem to bring this up, and Matt gets really annoyed at me for saying the same things over and over again. But the expectations change every couple of weeks, because 1 minute we're in a title challenge, the next minute we're in a top 4 race, the next minute we're in an FA Cup challenge, and 11 games to go, third, FA Cup quarterfinals. What are your realistic expectations for the rest of the season? And this doesn't mean this, I'm not going to pin this to you in 5 weeks time if we drop off or if we go higher. It's just right now as we sit here. We play Brighton in a few weeks in the quarterfinals. We're Man City this weekend, we're Ipswich away, and then we've a run in against teams who are some of them are distracted. Villa's distracted with Europe and stuff like that. So what are your realistic expectations for Forest for the rest of the season?
This is like the million pound question, isn't it? I do think we might drop out of the Champions League spots, unfortunately. I think it's going to be a battle to get in there, and I think teams in and around us are playing each other so much that we've got a really good chance of getting a European spot, whether that's Conference Europa or even Champions League still. And I expect it to actually go down to the last day for maybe the last 2 or 3 spots of the Champions League. I think like there could be a whole scenario where we're playing Chelsea and you've got people pockets of the ground cheering because, I don't know, Newcastle are losing or Man City are losing or drawing. Do you know what I mean? And it's a bit more of a fun time because you're not having to look over at Luton or bleeding Everton or Wolves or one of them crap teams at the bottom and worrying about them because we're not part of that conversation. So
Luton are part of the relegation conversation in the Championship right now. So we'll just remind.
Yeah, with Derby, which is brilliant.
Yeah,
isn't
it was
it?
brilliant. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go on.
So yeah, I think we might finish 6th personally. Like, I just think we've slipped off a little bit too much, and I think now this conversation that we've just had about depth is a kind of coming to now bite us in the backside, unfortunately. But this team has proven everyone and ourselves wrong time and time again. After this Man City game, if we got a really positive result, that could give us almost like the second or third wind. The last 10 games, we could go on a reasonably good run, and qualify for the Champions League, which would be an unbelievable achievement and probably put Nuno in the manager of the season conversation, if not win it. So yeah, I expect it to. I personally think we might drop off a little bit, but I still think we might get European football and then FA. Do you want to think for FA Cup? I do.
Yeah, go on.
Tough game. Brighton will obviously the whole thing of 7-0 will be plastered everywhere, won't it? But we've not been beaten by them this season, and I think they'll, in the back of their minds, they'll know it's going to be an extremely tough game, and I don't see why we can't go there and get a positive result and get into the semi-finals. And it's a good opportunity as ever to win the FA Cup, isn't it? Really, why not? And weirdly, we're like what, the 7th favourite to win it. I'm surprised we're not above Palace in that personally, but maybe it's because we're away from home, I guess. So. Yeah.
You're saying we're going to win the FA Cup? That's everyone. That's what he's saying. He's saying, not joking. Go on. No.
Why couldn't we win it? Why can't we win the FA Cup? That's what I'm saying. Why can't we win the FA Cup? It's mental because I think Reece said it on our podcast. If you take Man City away, we're the most recent winners of it in 1959.
Yeah,
which is absolutely.
There's 4
It's
teams that
craziness.
haven't won it, and then we're the most recent, and then the other one behind that is, who is it? I can't remember.
Villa.
I saw it. Villa.
Villa,
Yeah.
I think 1957. I think they won it last.
They have a good chance, Villa, actually, because they've. I mean, we have a good chance, but they have a good chance just because they playing Preston next round. Is it them? I don't know. I don't know who they're playing. So you're on mute
Fair
there.
enough
Sorry,
to
Alan.
look.
Yeah. I think Villa have a good chance, but we have a good chance as well. Will, before I rabbit on about my expectations and stuff, what about you? Start with the league and then go into the cup.
I think we're going to finish top 5. I still feel like that's the case. I know that the sort of confidence has waned a little bit in the last few weeks, but we've been playing some very good teams, and we've still managed to sort of maintain ourselves. Or the other teams haven't capitalised on the fact that we've struggled against some big teams. So I think Opta, if you're going to believe anything that they say, I think they thought we'd finish 17th this year at the start of the season. But they their supercomputer that they've got, they calculated that we're likely to, they've got a 60% chance of finishing in the top 5. And I know that's not amazing, but it's more than likely. So I'm sticking with that top 5. I think we'll do it.
Statsman Will sticking with the stats. I love that.
I'll say this as well. I agree with Adam that I think it's going to go down to the last day, and we are at home on the last day, which is huge because our crowd can be incredible when it comes to the clutch, and it has proven that time and time again. And I think that's worth a goal in any game.
Yeah. No, it is. And last game against Chelsea is good. And look, speaking of Chelsea, they've had an awful run of form since probably some point in December, I think, or they were in the title race at the end of December, and then all of a sudden, January, February, they completely dropped off. They've won a couple of games, and they're still in 5th, I think, and they're still well within. So even though they've had a massive slump and managed to beat teams like Southampton, but lose and draw loads of games, they're still in there, which shows you that if you get the points on the board early like we have, you can still be within a shout. We've had a slump recently. We haven't won a game in 3 or 4 matches since Brighton in the Premier League. And like you said, Will, that was back-to-back away games against Fulham and Newcastle, tough trips for any team. And then a really hard-fought draw against Arsenal, who are one of the best sides in the Premier League. And they're going to go to the quarterfinals, probably lose to Real Madrid in the Champions League. But they're a really good side who've built up players over the course of 4 or 5 seasons. And now we play City this weekend. And look, I think we just need to get to the March international break and reset and push for that run in. Because if we do that, then, Nuno's really good off the back of breaks and stuff like that. And, I just think that even though we've slumped, we're still within touching distance. And I think those wins, if you get one win in any game, in any 2 or 3 sets of games, it makes such a difference because you're still keeping yourself in the mix with those 3 points. So yeah, it's an obvious thing to say. As for the FA Cup, Will, what are your thoughts there?
I'd like to see Wembley again. I don't know. I'm not that confident about beating Brighton away from home with the form that they're in, and they'll probably be prioritising it over the league in many ways because it's very, very difficult for them. I suppose they probably, with their form now, they're probably more likely to get into Europe than not. But they'll look at it as three games and a great chance to get to Europe that way. And they're at home, and they'll be bang up for it, and they'll want to right the 7-0 wrong that from last time. I just think that's going to be an incredibly tough game for us. So I'm not as confident. Weirdly, I'm not as confident about winning the FA Cup as I am about finishing in Champions League, which is a mental sentence to say.
It's a crazy thing to say. The one thing I would say is I heard Gary Birtles on Forest Focus the other day, and he was talking about the pressure all being on Brighton, and he's actually right. It is. They're in their stadium. They'll be expected to make the semi-finals by beating us at home in their stadium, and the pressure be on them. And I've been to that stadium. It's not, the home crowd's not the loudest, and the away end is it's like a nice away end, to be fair. All the away fans at the back end, and it's class. And I think we could really ruffle some feathers there. The last 3 games they played against us, it was 2-2. They beat us 1-0. I was at that game, and then we drew with them 0-0 in the season that we were nearly relegated and survived. And we survived both years, but we weren't nearly relegated last year because Luton are so bad, and now they're going to get relegated to the League One, which would be great. But Yeah, I don't know. I think we definitely, the pressure is all on them, as Bertel said, and I think that's the thing to remember when we go there. We won't have the expectations that they will, even though we beat them 7-0. Going down there, we're the underdogs, I think, and they've been on such a good run of form, and that form will be stemmed by the national break, I think, a bit. What's mad is, Adam, I don't want to be too definite, but before we move on to sort of our red hot takes and score predictions, it's weird because if we beat Man City this weekend, let's say we beat Man City this weekend, it's not impossible, right? I would say we're going to make the Champions League. If we win that one game, we'll be 4 points clear of them. We'll be playing Ipswich away next, and that'll be a tough game, but we'll be playing Ipswich away next. If we win one game, that could literally, it could come down to, like, if we win this weekend, we will survive. Just like when we drew with them, it gave us enough to go, you know what, we can go on and stay up this 2 seasons ago. So I think if we win that one game, we actually will make Champions League. So that's why it's such a massive game this weekend. And then as for the FA Cup, it's 3 games to history. Win the next 3 games in the cup. I know it sounds easier, and everyone said every year, but that's the reality. And those 3 games aren't against Liverpool. They're not against Chelsea. They're not against Man United, Spurs. I know Man United and Spurs are bad this year. We probably would want it against them, but they're not against any of the bigger sort of teams, inverted commas. It might play Man City. Okay, we might make them, but it's Fulham, Palace, Bournemouth, Villa, Brighton. It's teams that we've all played and beaten. Preston. It's teams that we can beat, apart from City, who we'll find out this weekend. But like that's all it is, and it's kind of like 3 games to glory, kind of thing. So I don't know. I just, sometimes it's good to be a bit definite and dream. Do you know what I mean, Adam?
Yeah, sure, man. Like, what's the point of being a football fan if you don't think you can win stuff, like, or get to the Premier League as we did a couple of seasons ago? So nothing's out of the realms of possibility. The possibility of winning this weekend and saying, oh, we'll get Champions League, the Forest PTSD immediately kicks in, because you know what we're like. And Lee Clark says it all the time on our pod. It's the easy way, the hard way, and the Forest way. And you know full well we'll make a pig's ear of trying to get there. Obviously, I know Nuno's defied that a lot this season, but I believe in this group of players. I think we've got a lot of characters in there that aspire to get to those competitions in the future. And I think if we can get to the Champions League or even Europa League, the future of Forest is massive, isn't it? Because you just think of what can happen. Marinakis obviously wants to do the stadium. He wants to keep improving the youth academy, but then it's the level of play you can attract. That, like, Sosa and Jota will be like finding apartments in Olympiacos or wherever they're going, like come the last day of the season, if we get in the Champions
Don't write
League.
them off just yet. We'll wait till the end of the season.
They will not be here, though. They won't be here. Let's face it.
Let's not write them off just yet, because we'll need them for this season. We'll need them. Just hold on to them for now.
We'll need them, and then we'll kick them out the door when we get better better wingers, because that's what will happen.
They'll just improve and they'll be better. Hold on. Come back to me in the summer. We need them this year. Sosa score the winner in the FA Cup final.
If that happens, he still will get shipped out. I'm sorry, you will. Will's nodding in agreement.
No. Fair enough. Look, I'm obviously I'm speculating loads, which is leading us to have this conversation. But yeah, look, it's just a great place to be expectation wise. This weekend, we should go back to this weekend. Man City. Score predictions. Will, we'll start with you. What are your score predictions for this weekend, and who do you think is going to score the goals if we get any?
It's a pretty obvious thing to say, but I think we need to score first. Otherwise, we're in big trouble. I think we will, and I think we'll draw 1-1. That's my prediction there. It'll probably be
going for a draw. That's very Chris. That's a very Chris thing to do.
Yeah, I think one of our wingers will score, either Elanga or Hudson-Odoi. I just think that's where we're going to be able to exploit Man City against their wingers, and I think maybe a Hudson-Odoi special. That's what I feel it in my waters. That's what's going to happen.
Yeah. Okay.
And then we'll cling on. We'll bring on 5 and we'll cling on for the draw.
Hopefully, yeah. Well, no. Hopefully we win. Adam. What about you?
I'm also being very boring and saying draw. I think Chris Wood will score. You know, like he'll score the one chance, and it will be redemption from the City reverse game where he should have scored. being 1-1. And I absolutely agree with Will in terms of we have to score first. I think that's been our blueprint pretty much all season, hasn't it? Like when we've not scored first, it's been difficult for us because of our style of football. And maybe this is why Nuno was experimenting a little bit in midweek, where the wingers swapped over themselves and Alanga was coming over to overload the right hand side with Hudson-Odoi and as such. So maybe that's something that he's kind of trying to do to have another way of playing as such. But yeah, I'm gonna go 1-1, and if we get a point, Chris, I mean, I know you said about win. If we win, you think we will get Champions League. I think if we draw as well, it does the same thing. I think it gives us a lot of confidence. Unless we conceded like the 95th minute or something stupid, and it was like so close to victory, then that could have a different effect on us. But yeah, I think a result is what I'm going for.
Fair play. I predict a draw as well. I love my listen. It's absolutely pathetic. But look, I predict a draw. I don't know. In the podcast predictor league, I think originally I predicted a loss in this game. But after seeing the Arsenal game, I have faith that we can do a job defensively, keep our shape. I think ever since the second half of that Newcastle game, because I was at that and we were 4-1 down at halftime. Ever since the second half of that Newcastle game, where we kind of said, actually, we're a better team than this. Let's go on the front foot and let's get back to our defensive shape. Ever since that second half, I believe that we've been a better team. And that's only been 3 games ago, but momentum makes a difference. And I think we've been better defensively. So I'm going to go with a 2-2 draw. Because I believe City have the players to score a couple of goals against us, and I believe City's defense is a little fragile, and we can do the same. And you know what? I think City will score first, and I don't think that will matter. It does matter, but it won't in this case. In my prediction, I think we'll draw 2-2. They scored first against us 2 years ago, and we drew 1-1 with a late Chris Wood goal. So I'm going to go with that. Right, red hot takes. Will, did you get time to conjure up a red hot take, or not really?
Yeah, small one. It's not exactly exciting or anything like that. But it's, I reckon as soon as we get Champions League is confirmed for us, Morgan Gibbs-White signs a new contract.
Okay, that's not exciting, but I
contingent,
like
contingent, obviously. But I think.
What about Murillo? Does Murillo stay? I know he's already signed a contract, but does he stay for another year if we get Champions League football?
I think it probably depends on the offers on the table, and I'm sure there will be many. Hopefully he does. I think the fact that he's got loads of Brazilian friends here might help us a little bit. And he's still very young. He might think, well, 1 year, an extra year playing in Champions League with Forest might be fine. I think it's when rather than if. But I think he will go eventually, obviously. But I hope we can cling on to him for another year. But it will. If we don't get Champions League, I think he'll go.
Okay. All right. Well, hopefully not.
Murillo has publicly said it would be an honour to play Champions League with Forest, so that makes me think that he would be happy to stay at least another year if we were to qualify. And I think
he'd find it. I think he'd find it an honour to play for Real Madrid in the Champions League as well.
but the thing I'll say is he's also like things are going well for him right now. He's fairly settled at Forest. And if we make Champions League, we're still playing on the highest stage, the best league in the world, Premier League and Champions League. So he might say, well, what's one more year and I can get my Champions League dream. And then he has plenty of years left in his career. So I think he would definitely stay if we got Champions League football, because he could still be on the table for a year from now, 2 years from now to go to one of the massive clubs like Real Madrid or whatever.
The one good thing is that we hold all the cards. There's no release clause or anything like that. And then you look at Bournemouth, who've got Dean Huijsen, who's after an equally probably a good season as well for them. He's got a £50 million release clause, and I could easily see one of the big European boys activating that before they attempt to get Murillo, who's going to cost what? We'd probably want 80 million or more.
More.
I think I kind of know who.
He's 100 million. He's a £100 million defender. That's what he is.
I know from a business point of view who I'm looking at, and credit to Bournemouth for picking up Dean Huijsen and what an absolute failure by Juventus to not put him in their starting lineup. But that's a different conversation. But yeah.
Right. Forestallover red hot take from Adam. You're on mute.
I was going to
there,
quote
Adam.
something a
Go
bit
on.
boring where I thought Taiwo Awoniyi will score a pivotal winner at some point, and we'll all love him again. Not that we don't, but lots of people hate and love Taiwo. I think Murillo might have a Vincent Kompany moment where he scores an absolute worldie to win us a game, and that secures us some form of European football.
That is,
or an FA Cup kind of game. He will score a world. He was close on Monday, wasn't he? That one against Ipswich had some bend on it.
The other one as well, the half volley hit Yates in the back. That was going straight to the back of the net.
He was fuming.
I know.
Bloody Yates getting in the way.
I know. Yates apologized to him after. I think he went, "I'm sorry." I
saw.
The way it goes.
Hard to get out of the way of that one. To be fair,
Murillo's have a Vincent Kompany moment where he shoots and one of them does go in.
Yeah. That's a class red hot take. I love that.
Can I just say sorry? So at the start of the season, I said that I thought we'd beat one of the big boys and put them to the sword, and that's not happened yet this season, unless you count Brighton, which I don't think you can really. But
wait, what do you mean? We beat Liverpool at Anfield, and I predicted
put batter one of the big boys.
Oh right,
convincingly put to the sword.
Yeah,
right,
exactly. Right. So we're running out of big boys to play, and I think, who says it can't be this weekend?
Oh,
last time we played at lunchtime. Last time we played Saturday lunchtime, we won 7-0, and we're doing it again.
I mean
I'm still predicting a draw, but I'm just saying.
Still backing down. You're still backing down. I love it. Yeah. I'll just come up with the Forest all over red hot take right here. Okay. I think Forest will get to the FA Cup final. I don't know if we'll win it, but I think we'll get to the FA Cup final. I think we'll beat Brighton in Brighton. That's a really tough game, and then I think we'll beat whoever. We'll have Wembley in the semi-final, and then I think we'll get the final. That's my red hot take for now.
I'm just terrified of the fact that Man City or Bournemouth are going to go through guaranteed to the semi-final.
Would you rather play Man City or Bournemouth in the semi-final?
Honestly, Bournemouth actually, because we'll be at Wembley, and I think they've got about 10,000 fans. So I think we'll drown them out. It'll be like a home game for us.
Okay,
it'll be like when we played Huddersfield and they couldn't fill their allotted amount of people.
I love that. Right. I'm going to do a review corner, and then we'll do goodbyes and get out of here. All right. Review corner involves Adam Wiklo. This one. I'm going all the way back to the Pathway episode when it was Will, me, and Matt. And Adam listened to that, and he wrote back to me, "Is Matt an idiot? Alvarez, laughing face, because Matt was talking about getting Alvarez in the January window or something crazy, and we were
an absolute worldie against Real Madrid the other night as well."
Yeah, we were all laughing because it was never going to happen. You had a go at me saying you must have splinters predicting so many draws, so that's you're having a go at me. That's fair enough. And then you said, and Will having to separate the adopted brothers from killing each other, which is
it's quite normal. It's like a normally family afternoon at the family Forest all over Sunday dinner table, isn't it?
It's a full-time job.
Yeah,
but someone has to do it.
Will's in a WhatsApp group, isn't it? It's just a mayhem WhatsApp group when me and Matt are both on at the same time, going back and forth. Okay. The last bit of the review corner is last week. Matt was talking about how he felt Mulligan-Tyre should only be played at the beginning of the game, shouldn't be played at halftime. I personally think it should be played at halftime. It's played at the beginning of the game and it's going to be louder, but halftime's still good. Obviously, the game went to extra time and then it was played before extra time. And I thought, okay, then maybe that's a bit much. And I felt like that was a little bit too much, too far. But I personally disagree with Matt. What a surprise with something. Now, Reese from your podcast, Adam, wrote something on Twitter. I think he wrote it should definitely only be played once before the game, so he believes that. We had Steve Clarence say, I took a work colleague to his first Forest game in the last round of the FA Cup, and with the delays getting into the ground with the ticket scanners, he missed the famous Mulligan-Tyre. He got to witness it at the start of the second half, so Matt can get in the bin. Now, that's a good point because, sometimes that does happen. And then David Jones said, it's a ridiculous suggestion, so please don't waste our time. Suspect it is just Matt being deliberately provocative like a poor man's Robbie Savage. He's absolutely done that there. I love
There's
that.
no such thing as a poor man's Robbie Savage. He's already there.
Okay. Love that. Derby dig. Will, what would you think? McIntyre beginning and half-time or just beginning?
Yeah, you're going to hate me for this, but just the beginning. I think it waters it down or it cheapens it slightly if you've got two showings of it. And yeah, it's better when it's one. And I think the second one's never quite as good as it. Let's be honest. It's never as rousing as the first one.
No, because obviously you're going to have a bigger one at the beginning of the game because it's the start of the game and everyone's been preparing all week.
Just do the one.
No, I like the two. I like the one in the second half. I think it's still good to do it. It's the players go back out. It's that routine. I think it's good. Adam, what about you?
Yeah, just one. I think it really did it for me when we lost. I think it was losing like 3-0 to Sheffield Wednesday once when we played at half time, and I just like almost walked out the ground just because of that.
But you know what?
It's just as bad as goal music. Just no. Get rid of it. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question, right? Playoff, semi-final, Sheffield United, second leg, like that time a few years ago. Half time. I think it's good to have it again just to rouse the players.
Well, I was
didn't
there,
they play it 4
and
times?
I don't really remember it happening, to be honest, because I was that much of a, I don't want to swear, but I was that much of a brick, basically, because I just thought Forest were going to do a Forest as usual. But yeah, I don't even remember McIntyre second half, to be honest, Chris.
Will, you were
in
there?
My memory, they played it 4 times that night. Start of extra time and then halfway through extra time as well.
That's just so bad, isn't it?
Dreadful. I agree that I was happy for it to be played like for the start of extra time. That's kind of fine because it's like a whole additional phase.
Hang on. So now you're changing the goalpost. You're saying you
sort of
want at the beginning of the game and you don't want it at half time, but if we go to extra time, play it before extra time.
Yeah, because extra time is special. It's not you just draw normally. So I think it's reasonable for a cup game to get your players up for the last half an hour. It's different. Whereas
I think it's reasonable for any game to get them up for the second 45 minutes.
Because also, sorry, I would say this: if it's extra time, then the scores are level, so it's in the balance. And I think it's a suitable time to kind of get behind the boys and have a rousing McIntyre. If you're doing McIntyre and you're 4-0 down, as Adam might sort of suggested there, it's not. It doesn't have the same sort of significance.
Hopefully, we're not going to be 4-0 down at half time anytime soon. All right. So look, okay. Well, look, we've put it to the listeners, and they've said we'll probably do this again. But Matt agrees with both of you. I think it's okay to do it for the second half. I'm not going to do a poll on it because people have already asked the question online recently in the last week. That's it. We'll say goodbye. Will, do you want to say goodbye? Will, do you want to say goodbye? I lost the last poll, so I'm not losing another one. We'll get to you to say goodbye first, and then we'll go to Adam.
Yeah, thanks for having me again, Chris. Always enjoy it. Nice to meet you again. Nice to meet you finally, Adam. Big fan of your podcast.
Adam,
well, thank you, Will. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me on. I do want to come on and be like a referee for you and Chris. You and Matt, sorry, should I say? Yeah. That's an insult. I've insulted you on your own podcast. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Nice to meet you. No stats, which has been sad. So you know,
he pulled out
stats anyway.
Yeah, I always do this to him before any podcast. I just say, Matt, will you just do me a favor? You just get a few of the stats, and he goes, "What? Like it's 20 minutes to go." Like so, the pathway episode, I gave him a few days, and he was prepared to go, so he was ready to rock and roll. So yeah.
Our pitch is the biggest in the Premier League. Apparently, that's the stat that I.
that's been a fact for like years.
Yeah,
it's been a fact for years. It's been a fact for years. That has. But no, Will, like your name is Statsman Will. You should always be prepared with stats. Like you.
Adam's just cut you down.
You should just have a. You should just have a book of stats. Chris, why have you not got Will a Christmas present of stats? Like, what are you doing? Shocking.
Well,
you could get me an Excel membership, a yearly membership to Excel or something like that. Would be
nice. Right.
A membership to Opta.
Thanks so much for coming, guys. We're over an hour, which I told you was going to be 30 minutes, and that's gone way longer than that. That's my fault. Thanks for coming, Adam. Tell everyone where they can find the Red Side of the Trent. Everyone knows the Red Side of the Trent podcast. It's way bigger than ours, but go on.
YouTube, Spotify, Apple, but also check out Forest All Over because it's fun. I like listening to it. I like listening to the squabbles. And I hopefully will tune into you guys talking about a historic win against Man City at the weekend after we've not beaten them for 30 years. So hopefully that's something that we can all celebrate.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Will, thank you very much. Again, I think I did this twice. I've already thanked you. I got to stop doing this because Matt's going to start complaining.
This is like the British way of saying goodbye, where no one actually ever says goodbye.
Well, I should do the Irish goodbye, which is just slip out the back door. So, look, goodbye, everyone. Thank you for listening. Follow us. If you got this far, like and subscribe. I never do that at the beginning, and no one ever does, so it's fine. It's too late now. Follow us at NFFC All Over on X or at Forest All Over on Instagram. Forest All Over. theworld.com or forestallover.com as well, and that's it. Thanks. Hopefully we beat City this weekend. Hopefully Matt's going to finish his Forest Fantasy 5 stuff. Hopefully Will can get a book of stats together on all the times Matt has been wrong. It'll be a pretty big book. And Adam, you're a star for coming on. Thank you for that lift you gave me back from the Ipswich game back in November. Early hours of the morning, he picked me up from the hotel, drove me all the way to Birmingham Airport. Absolute star, Adam. Check out his podcast, Red Side of the Trent. Take care, everyone. Peace and love. Let's beat City!